everybody said it couldn't happen. Everybody said there was no meat shortage. Everybody said that prices would not increase. And look where we are now. Hey folks, Prepper Princess. So I've been getting a lot of comments and reports about meat shortages and meat prices skyrocketing, and I only shop once a month, but a few days ago it was my monthly shopping day, and I had to keep it in the budget of $60 a month, and it was not easy to do. So people are correct. I got this last month. It was chicken breast for $4.99 a pound. This was not at Winco. But yeah, the prices are going up. When I went to Winco, I noticed that there was no steak to be found. I take that back. There was one type of steak for $16.99 a pound, which is, I don't think I've ever seen it that high, to be honest with you. So there's a couple of things that I've been doing, a couple things that you can do too. And I think that this is really interesting. I think that at this point in time, in our economy, we need to really start thinking outside the box, okay? And this is a very broad thing, but this is happening a lot. So first and foremost, I want to recommend the cheaper cuts of meat. So here's just a example. So this is, instead of bacon, I got bacon end pieces. This one is $1.78 a pound, which is about half the price of bacon right now, and they taste exactly like bacon. There's another thing that you can do, which is even half the price of this, is bacon loin jowl. It's a really, really cheap cut of meat. It's this part of the pig right here, and it tastes a lot like bacon, except it's a lot of the fatty part of bacon. So when you have bacon, you've got the meat and the fat, and the jowl part is mostly fat. But if you're looking for it just to get the flavor of bacon and not necessarily the meat part, it works really, really well as a flavor additive. Another thing that I'm doing is, instead of buying the pre-made rotisserie chickens that you see at like Safeway for like $9.99, I think Walmart has them for like $6. I'm not sure. I haven't been to Walmart in a long time. But so I went with the uncooked version of the whole chicken fryer, and this one was $2.67. If you can see down at the bottom there, $2.67. So it's at least half the price of an already cooked bird. If you have time constraints, obviously this is not going to work for you. Another thing that I'm doing is replacing a lot of meat with sweet potato. So there's lots of different kinds of sweet potato. This one is a little bit too sweet for me. This is the one that has the orange flesh on the inside. This one has just the white flesh on the inside, and it's still a sweet potato, and it's still really sweet, but it's a lot less sweet than this one. And so this has turned out to be my all-time favorite. They're better than regular potatoes, but if you want to go that route, then hey, go with potatoes. Potatoes are very filling, very high in vitamins and nutrients. Another thing that I have done recently is I got my fishing license. So I'm going to be supplementing a lot of my meat with fish that I catch myself. I live on the river here, and bass and trout are really big here. It's probably going to be a couple of months before I can get out, because we have hit the summer weather, and today it's 108 degrees outside. So it's a little bit too hot to do it right now, but for 9 months out of the year, I'm going to make a go of it and hopefully fill my freezer. So the fishing licenses here are, I believe, $37 for a year. Divide that by 12 months, it adds up to like $3 a month. And then put in the bait for about $1.50 to $2. So every time I go out, as long as I'm catching, if I'm only doing it once a month and I catch $5 worth of fish to take home and eat for myself, I've made my money back. If I double that and I catch enough fish to make $10 worth, I've doubled my money back. Another thing that I'm doing, so I already make my own homemade soy milk out of soybeans. I did place an order for a tofu maker. It's essentially, it's a $6 plastic thing, and then you can just get a coagulant, and then you take the soy milk, use the coagulant, put it in the press, and it makes tofu. Tofu is really high in protein, and it makes for a good meat alternative, although not quite as tasty, but it does have the tendency to mingle with whatever food it is that you're cooking. So for instance, if you're making like tiki masala and you've got the sauce and then you put in the tofu, it's going to taste like tiki masala. But other than that, it doesn't really have a lot of flavor. You can also add sugar to it, put it in milk and add sugar and make a nice little treat for yourself. But those are some of the things that I'm doing right now. So I'm checking out MSN right now, and it says that the meat shortage is pushing prices to unprecedented levels, possibly 20% increase in the coming months. And that is not including the increases that we've already seen. So there might be an additional 20% increase on the food. And then it says U.S. could be weeks from meat shortages. So the plants closed down, and then Trump issued an executive order to keep the plants open, but they're still having problems keeping up with demand. And the people who said that there was no meat shortage, well, they're still doing what's called rationing at the stores. So they're still allowing you to purchase meat, but it's a limit of 1 or 2 per household. So that makes things a little bit more difficult. And I don't really think that people are being all that honest. I think that a lot of people are buying their meat at one store, going to another, purchasing the limit, going to another, purchasing the limit. And I don't really think that it's having a huge effect on keeping the store shelves replenished as much as possible. However, I do recommend looking up World War II rationing. During World War II, the United States had a limit of meat of 2.5 pounds per person. However, and that was per week. However, in the UK, and 2.5 pounds per week is more than enough. But in the UK, they had a maximum of 4 ounces per meat per person per week. That's about the size of a deck of cards, however you want to say it, or your fist. So that's all they got for a week. So they, and also vegetable oils, cooking oils, butter and margarine, fat, those things were rationed as well. So people really, really had to come up with creative ways to make their meat last and stretch as long as possible so that they could make it to their next ration. Fruits and vegetables, for the most part, were not rationed, but it was meat, coffee, tea, tobacco, clothing, shoes, and anything that came in a tin was essentially rationed because they needed the tin to create things for the war. So anything that came in a tin, which is why coffee was rationed. But you know, I always talk about people eating their proper portions in their meals. We do have an obesity epidemic. We have an overweight epidemic. And I think that a lot of this has to do with people just plain old consuming too much. You look at a restaurant plate and half of it is covered in a big old slab of meat. And that's really not a healthy way to be eating. So stick to your 4 ounces of meat. And I think that it's going to help your money stretch a lot further. If you're into crazy, kooky stuff like I am, like going fishing for yourself or making your own tofu, that's a way to go. You can also, if it's for you, you can raise chickens and rabbits. Rabbits for meat and chickens for the eggs. I previously had chickens, and I found that the cost of the coop, the feed, the chickens themselves, and the time that it took to clean up after the chickens was not at all monetarily feasible at all. I can imagine if you're feeding them from your own garden, then that would work, but I live in the desert and my garden is not going to be up until the fall. So chickens are they don't work for me. I don't care for them enough to keep something like that going. And then when it comes to meat rabbits, it's just too hot here. But if I were in a colder climate, that is definitely something that I would consider. However, I do have the option of making the tofu and fishing for my own food. So fishing and tofu, super simple, super cheap. Bag of soybeans costs $15 and it'll last you like, I think 25 pounds is going to make something like 200 gallons of soy milk. So, you know, 25 pounds for 40 bucks, 100 gallons. You guys go ahead and do the math. It's like 25 cents a gallon. And that's if you like soy milk. But soy milk is really good for you, and it's really good for cooking. And that's just what I'm doing, as giving you guys an example of a little bit of thinking outside of the box. And I think, again, that's something that we need to start doing in these difficult economic times as a nation. If you guys have any ideas or things that you're doing to supplement your meat or the meat shortages, go ahead and write it down in the comments, and make sure to provide specific instructions on how you are doing so. Do what you can with what you've got. Prepper Princess out.
What you got there? What you got there? Right. What you got there? Is that my toy? Oh, you gonna bite me? Are you gonna bite me? You sure are. You sure are. You can keep it. What you doing? You can keep it, mister. I don't want your toy. Okay. Calm down. Calm down. Do you like your squeaky toy? Oh, you're serious. Okay.